look at the right-handed and the midpoint formulas for Riemann sums. We're using the same function, so it's still in my calculator. I'm still using the same sketch, but I'm doing a new amount of subintervals. So I have a new width that I'm going to be working with. My width is going to be 4 minus -2 divided by now 6, because I have 6 subintervals. That is going to give me 1 for my width. So that's what I'm going to be using for the base. Okay, and then also, I already pre-drew this, you're going to go by ones on your x-axis. So starting at -2, we're doing -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now since we're doing right-handed on this example, I like to start on the furthest right of my interval. So we're going to start at 4, and we'll start drawing our rectangles going backwards from there across. That's my first height. And then my second one will be coming from 3, then from 2, 1, 0, and I'm going to stop one before. So my last, I can highlight that in red. The first one that I'm going to be using is f of 4, and the last one will be f of -1. So it'll always stop one before the end of your interval. If you're starting on the right, I would go right to left. So now if I'm doing my area as base times height, my new base is 1, that's my new width. And then we're going to find each of the function values. So f of 4 plus f of 3. Notice I'm going backwards because that's how I came up with the values. But you could go starting with -1 and go forward. It really doesn't matter because you're just adding them all together. And then just make sure you have 6 because we're working with 6 subintervals. We can still use the calculator to come up with our answers. Okay. A little bit of a time lag, sorry for the delay here. 11, should be 11, 5, 3, and 5. Let me just double check that. Perfect. Okay. And then approximately add that up, we should get 80. Okay, last one is the midpoint formula. This is where we might change up our window a little bit because we're going to be doing halfway. Also 6 subintervals, so same width. But unlike the previous picture, we're going to do all the halfway points from -2 to 4. So in a way, it's easier to figure out what the points are for the rectangles because you're going halfway in between each one. So at the 0.5s. Doing a great job of drawing this right now. Maybe I'll highlight them in red now that we know that we're going to be doing all this. So here's a midpoint here. So these are all going to be happening at 0.5s. And it just depends on how many intervals you have and what your original ones were. It's not really going to be much different. We're just doing the half. So we're doing approximately 1, because it's still our width. And then we're going to do -1.5, -0.5. So you may be thinking, oh, I have to plug all of these in. That could be be very tedious, but there is a way to adjust your table so that it will do it for you. And I'll show you that in a minute. So what should happen here is you should start at the halfway point between your first and second, and then also your second to last and last. Now, if I want to adjust my table, if you hit second window, right now I have the delta table, meaning the change in the table going by ones. You can change it. In this case, I wanted to have the 0.5s in there, and then go back. And now I have the ones I'm looking for. I have the negative 1.5, I have negative 0.5. So I can just pull all of these right from here. I'll just scroll a little bit more so I can see the end result. We need up to 3.5, I think. Can we see all of them? If you have the newer updated calculator, you should be able to fit them all on there. If not, you just have to scroll. Still better than calculating it by hand. So 7.5. And then if you add all of those up, you should get 65. So I think the most tedious part is going to be doing that adding at the end, but if you use the calculator table as a resource after you've looked at your graph, I think that's going to be your best bet for getting each of those values. All right, so that kind of wraps the three different versions. You are now ready to do some practice.